What's going on, y'all? It is me, Jess, and I'm back again with another video. So, welcome to episode 6. If you have been following my own little mini docu-series about my journey losing 200 pounds, I absolutely appreciate you, okay? And if you can relate to some of the things that I have gone through, meaning that if you've had your own weight loss journey or have been overweight or obese, or if you're currently overweight or obese, and you want to get a different perspective or perspective on what things could look like, for a journey, I definitely just appreciate you all for watching, right? And one of the things that I want to touch on, and I do have my handy dandy iPad today because I want to make sure that I touch on all of the topics. I don't want to make the video too long, but I just want to make sure I hit all of my, talking points, right? So if you would have asked me at 350 pounds, could I ever imagine myself at 150 pounds? I probably would say, hell no. Like, I was probably 150 pounds when I was like 8 or 9, y'all. So for me, being in this body, I'm still in complete shock and awe. I didn't even know that I could even get down to this size. So for me, it is just so amazing to see myself, right? But it doesn't come with its cons as well, right? There's a whole lot of pros to losing 200 pounds, but there's also some cons that come with that, right? And throughout my journey, was loose skin mentioned? Yes, but not in abundance, right? So when you're on your weight loss journey, your major goal is to just get the weight off, right? Especially if you're losing 20 pounds here, 30 pounds here, you really don't see a significant amount of loose skin. Now that I am 200 pounds in my journey and I see myself in the mirror, although I like my frame, there are just some things that I just am not happy with. And I could just be completely transparent and honest about that. It's like I spent all of this time losing 200 pounds just to not be so happy with what I see in the mirror. And believe it or not, y'all, I do have loose skin. I have loose skin, a lot of it on my upper thighs. I have it on my arms. I do have some on my abdomen. And y'all, this weight loss has took all my breasts. All of it, okay? At one point, at my heaviest, I might have been like a double D or bigger. Like, y'all, I'm probably a B cup. And that's giving some grace, right? And I had no idea that all my breasts, I had no idea that they would just be completely obliterated. Did I say it right? Gone. You get what I'm trying to say? I didn't realize that they would be gone. So, like, I love the frame that I'm in, but when I see myself, I'm still not satisfied. And I think this is something about the journey that a lot of people don't talk about, right? You spend all this time trying to get out that bigger body, get out that shell, just to be like, damn, and I still got work to do, which is why I never recommend getting, you know, morbidly obese or super big, or I don't recommend it, y'all, because you have to pay for the the things that you've done to your body over that amount of time, right? So it's kind of like, well, it's not kind of like a rubber band, because at some point when that skin stretches out, it doesn't always pop right back. And I do want to come on here because people always say, you don't look like you got loose skin, you don't look. Y'all, I do. And I might do a loose skin reveal. We'll see. I'm a little bit uncomfortable with it because I'm still uncomfortable with it myself. And it's like I've spent all these years to lose 200 pounds to still be not happy with wearing my arms out because of the loose skin that I do have on my arms, right? If you look at my arms, yeah, they look nice and toned, but when I take off this workout shirt, you could see the loose skin that I have. So when I was on my journey, I wish someone would have told me that, like, okay, this is another phase of your weight loss journey that you're going to have to come up with, right? You're going to have to solve. Not everybody who has loose skin gets to cut off, but it does become uncomfortable. It can become restricting. And does insurance cover some parts of loose skin removal? Yes, but it just really depends on what it is. You would think, and I wish insurance did cover it, and in the US to get the loose skin cut off and get everything rebuilt back up, it is expensive. I remember I got quoted for my arms alone. I think my arms, they wanted like 18,000 for my arms, bro. So could you imagine, like, if I were to get implants, and I'm still trying to decide if I want to do implants. I don't really have a whole lot of fat to do, you know, a fat transfer, but we can get into that another day. But if I want to get implants, if I want to get a lower body lift, or if I want to get my thighs done, like, y'all, we're talking 50, 60, 70, 80 thousand, potentially, depending on who you go to. Yes, you can go outside the country, but I always say you have to be cautious of the doctor that you use, right? So I wish there was more of an emphasis on, this is something that you need to be saving up for. This is something that you may be, you know, going through after you finally lose the weight. And if I could tell you now, if you want to go through a significant weight loss, you need to be planning post-body what you're going to do about that loose skin if a lot of that is not covered by insurance to get it cut off, right? So something else I want to talk about too, hair thinning, right? I was not prepared, you know, washing my hair and seeing clumps of hair come out in the sink was something that was very hard for me to see. I had no idea that losing a significant amount of weight, and this is why it's so important to take your vitamins and have a regimen, because you don't want to make sure that you want to make sure that you're not missing out on the nutrients that you need. And I could just, you know, say that I'm guilty that I haven't always taken my vitamins when I should, and I haven't always done certain things. That is why I have a regimen now, to make sure that I don't deal with some of those things that I did. But that is also a side effect of losing weight. You could lose some of your hair. People assuming that you're happier now. And I want to say this is twofold, right? Am I happy that I lost the weight? Absolutely. Okay. I'm super happy that I lost the weight. Would I ever go back? No. And God willing, that I never do. But there has been some downsides to this, you know, the loose skin, not being happy with what you see in the mirror, people treating you differently, not having the same relationships with your friends, family treat you differently. Just people just interact with you so differently that it could be a shock to your system. And you're not always happier. You know what I mean? Because with weight loss comes a whole nother set of concerns and problems that people didn't really think of and consider. So people assume that you're just happy now and that this is the end of the road, but it's not. Because I'm going to always have to fight to keep the weight off. I'm going to always have to fight to make sure that, like, I don't get back to that weight, right? I don't get to just be idle. And that could be a little bit discouraging, because feeling like I'll be on a lifelong journey can feel daunting at times. But, you know, I just want to stay in it, right? So that's something that people don't talk about. And now people assume that you're happier now. Another part of that is the pressure to keep the weight off, okay? There's nothing worse than losing 200 pounds and then I gain 150 of it back. I'm telling you, y'all would be talking about me so bad. Like, I knew she was gonna get that weight back on. But like, it does become a pressure of like making sure that you keep this weight off. And it can also become obsessive if you don't catch it, right? And if you know, you know, weight loss can become addicting. It can be. And you don't want to get to the point where now you have body dysmorphia, or you don't want to get to a point where now you have an eating disorder. But, you know, losing weight can ultimately become an addiction. So with that being said, there is a pressure to maintain it. Like, there's a pressure to show up. Let's just say if you haven't seen people that you haven't seen people that you used to see, you know, back in the day. For an example, you know, when I was in high school, I was big, right? Let's just say we're planning a reunion. There's a pressure that I have to show up my best self and looking good, because I don't want people to see me big, right? So there's this pressure to maintain your weight loss. And especially if you're documenting your journey like this, right? I would feel terrible if I'm telling y'all about my journey of losing 200 pounds just to gain 150 of it back, right? So I also have to walk the walk and talk the talk and practice what I preach. Another thing is emotional eating habits that still exist, right? In my last video, I talked about habits and things that you need to do to make sure that you are staying on top of what you need to do. if you're not on it, you can go back into those cycles of eating the things that you're not supposed to eat, such as binge eating or eating a whole bunch of junk food. And I'll keep it a bean with y'all. I still have those moments. Now, I have gotten better with self-control, and I've never really been a binge eater or an emotional eater, but I love me a good sweet treat. I love me something sweet. I love something sweet, y'all. I do, and I need to get up out of that because the sweets have me in a chokehold real bad. Okay, I just don't know what it is about a sweet treat. And if I'm not careful, I could just tear something up. Okay, I could eat the whole pack. And I've gotten to a point where I like to treat myself in between. That way I don't feel tempted to binge, right? So let's just say if I buy a pack of cookies, I might eat one cookie. I might eat 2 cookies and let that be, instead of just trying to eat the whole pack of cookies. But I might treat myself every week or so. That way it doesn't feel like I'm totally restricting myself. And then when I finally have it, I go crazy, right? Also, something else that people don't talk about is not only the pressure to maintain the weight loss, but y'all, I have immense fear of gaining that weight back. And this is one of the reasons why pregnancy scares me. I want to have children, and I look forward to motherhood, and God willing that I do have children one day. But that is something that I think about. You know, if I were to carry a child, would I go? Of course, I would gain some weight. I would hope you would, right? But you know, one of my biggest fears is getting back to the size that I was after having a child. And I will see this too. Now everybody bounce back. Everybody don't bounce back. I said what I said. I've seen some people, they had that kid and it did a number or two. I just, to each his own, I just don't want that to be me. Okay. So for me, I do know if I were to, you know, get pregnant, there are some things that I would have in place as far as like making sure I work out, making sure I eat a certain way, and try to minimize the amount of weight that I gain, but then also being on it after I would give birth. But in relation to that, not doing it in a way that is not doing it in a way that is unhealthy, right? I don't want to do it unhealthy. But that's something that scares me. Something that nobody told me about is shopping, the things that I would go through shopping. And sometimes I don't see myself the way that people always see me. And it took me a while to truly realize the size that I truly am. If you look at me now, like before, I would still buy clothes at this size at like a large or extra large. But y'all, if I put on a large or extra large, I'm swimming in it. Deep sea, ocean, okay? And it took me a minute to like, I kind of weaned myself down. So once I realized I was kind of swimming, and the swimming in the extra largest and the largest, I'm like, well, let me go on down to a medium. But when I got down to a medium, I was like, I mean, damn, it's still a little bit more room in here. And I was like, let me just dibble and dabble in the small. And y'all, when I put that small on and it just hugged my body just so eloquently, I had to come to the realization of what my true size was, but I wasn't seeing myself the way that people were seeing me. So that is also a struggle, shopping for clothes now, because things kind of fit differently. And I need to figure out what I want to do with all my other clothes that I can't wear anymore. But yeah, that's also something. Also being a curvier woman with, you know, having a small upper body but having a thicker lower body, that's also a struggle that I deal with in conjunction to the weight loss with shopping for clothes. I wish someone would have told me that you was going to need a whole new wardrobe, because these are things you don't think about. You just want to get the weight off, but there's a lot of expenditures that come with this. And I want to say there's one more that I want to touch on. And I kind of touched on this before, but it's looking smaller, but not feeling smaller. Y'all, there are some times or some days where I still feel like that 350-pound woman. Well, maybe not 350. But there's still some days that I still feel big, where I still feel uncomfortable. And it's not until I see myself in photos sometimes where people are saying, or like somebody would say, oh my gosh, you're so tiny, you're so small. And I'm like, what are you seeing that I don't see? I ain't synced it. But I had to come to the realization, like, I might not always see my journey the way that other people see me, and mainly because I see myself every day. But I had to get used to seeing myself for how I look now, and I'm still getting used to it. But I'm still in awe. I'm still in awe that this is me. So I know I keep saying that, but if y'all knew where I started, where I came from, or if you're going through some of the things that I've gone through, then you would understand. But yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much some of the things I wanted to touch on. Like, losing weight is expensive. Well, it doesn't have to be expensive, right? Let me rephrase my wording. There's other factors that you need to think about when you do lose a significant amount of weight or want to do that. What loose skin is going to look like. You may need a whole new wardrobe. You might need to do X, Y, and Z. So many different things to consider that I had no idea about until I got here. But this is why I'm here, because if you're considering a journey, this is something that you want to do, these are some things to think about. Okay? So this is pretty much it for episode 6. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this on up. But make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe if you made it this far. And bye!